Welcome back, deep divers. Get ready to explore the fascinating world of AI in behavioral healthcare. We're diving into a presentation that's got me thinking, is this the future of mental health or what? But first, a little history lesson, just to keep things interesting. You won't believe this.
Yeah, get this. This presentation starts off with a story about this thing called the Mechanical Turk. It was this whole big thing back in the 1770s, a supposed chess-playing machine. Can you imagine?
A chess-playing machine in the 1700s. Okay, you've definitely got my attention. How does that even relate to AI as we know it?
Well, the Mechanical Turk was actually a really elaborate hoax. There was a human chess master hiding inside controlling the whole thing.
Whoa, seriously, talk about smoke and mirrors.
Right. But here's the thing. Even though it was fake, people were totally drawn to this idea of a machine that could think. It just shows that we've been fascinated by this concept of artificial intelligence for a long, long time.
So fast forward to today, and AI isn't some hidden chess player anymore, right? It's everywhere.
It really is. And it's only getting more complex.
But what is AI really at its core? Break it down for us.
You got it. So AI is basically all about creating machines that can do things that usually require, well, us. Human intelligence, things like learning, solving problems, even understanding emotions.
Right, and when we say machines, we're talking computers, algorithms, all that good stuff, right?
Exactly. Think of it this way. Imagine teaching a computer to play the piano. Instead of programming in every single note of every song, you feed it thousands of songs, and it starts to pick up on the patterns on its own.
So instead of just playing by the rules, it learns to, like, understand music on a whole other level.
Yeah. And all those buzzwords you hear, algorithms, machine learning, neural networks, those are just the tools that help it do that. Algorithms are basically like sets of instructions for the computer. Machine learning is how it learns from data, and neural networks are inspired by the human brain, all these interconnected nodes that process information.
So we're basically trying to create a computer brain that can learn and think like we do.
In a way, yeah. And the idea is that AI can use all this learning to do some pretty amazing things in healthcare, like, for example, helping doctors diagnose diseases earlier, or even personalizing treatments for individual patients.
Okay, that makes sense for things like reading x-rays or analyzing blood work, but behavioral healthcare is different. We're talking about the human mind, emotions, things that are harder to quantify. Can AI really handle that?
That's the big question, right?
Yeah.
And that's what makes this whole field so exciting and potentially groundbreaking.
All right, so how is AI actually being used in behavioral healthcare right now? Give us a glimpse into what's possible.
Well, for starters, imagine a world where you're in crisis, right?
Yeah.
And you need to reach out for help, but you call a hotline and every single line is busy.
That's the worst feeling, especially when you're already in a vulnerable place. Knowing there's no one there to pick up the phone, it's terrifying.
Exactly. And that's one area where AI could be a total game changer. The presentation talked about AI-powered crisis hotlines available 24/7, no wait times. You talk to the AI, and it's trained to analyze your voice, your words, for signs of distress.
So no more busy signals when someone's in a full-blown crisis. That's amazing. But can an AI really, like, offer the same level of support as a human on the other end of the line?
It's a good question, and something the presentation addressed head-on. The idea isn't that AI would replace human responders entirely. It's more about using AI as this incredibly powerful tool to support them. Like, imagine the AI could analyze a call in real time and flag if it thinks the person is at high risk for self-harm or suicide.
Based on what? How could it tell?
All sorts of things. Voice inflection, for one. Even if someone's trying to sound calm, the AI could pick up on, say, tremors in their voice or sudden changes in pitch that might indicate a high level of distress, things we might not even consciously notice.
Whoa, that's pretty amazing. Like the AI is listening between the lines or something.
Kind of. And it's not just about individual calls either. AI could also help us spot larger trends in mental health data. Let's say there's a natural disaster or some kind of major economic downturn, and suddenly you see this spike in anxiety-related calls. The AI could pick up on that pattern and alert healthcare providers so they can, allocate resources where they're needed most.
That's amazing. It's like having this early warning system for mental health crises, which could be huge for preventing things from escalating.
Exactly. And the presentation also touched on another exciting possibility: personalized treatment plans based on AI analysis.
Oh, yeah, I've heard about that. Like, instead of just getting generic advice, The AI can tailor a plan specifically for you.
Right. You could analyze your history, your preferences, even how you've responded to different treatments in the past, and come up with a plan that's actually designed for you, not just some general guidelines. But this is also where things start to get a little complicated, ethically speaking.
Yeah, I was just thinking that AI analyzing your every move, all your data, that's a lot of power. What kind of risks did the presentation highlight? AI analyzing your every move, all your data, that's a lot of power. What kind of risks did the presentation highlight?
Well, one thing that really stuck with me was this idea of AI becoming so good at analyzing data, like scarily good, that it could potentially diagnose mental health conditions better than humans could.
Okay, I see what you mean about complicated. That's kind of a freaky thought, right? Like, are we going to have AI therapists someday? Is that where this is all headed?
It's funny, they actually brought that up in the presentation. Like, imagine AI that could analyze all your data,
Yeah.
your medical history, your texts, your browsing history, everything, and be able to predict if you're, say, at risk for depression or anxiety even before you have any symptoms.
Wow, that could be revolutionary, I guess. Or maybe a little bit Black Mirror-ish, depending on how it's used.
Exactly. And that's the thing. It's not just about the technology itself. It's about how we choose to use it and the ethical considerations. Huge. Like, what about the potential for bias? AI is only as good as the data it's trained on, right?
Mhm.
So if the data is flawed, the AI's analysis will be flawed too.
And that could lead to, what, people getting misdiagnosed or not getting the right treatment?
Potentially, yeah. And then
Mhm.
there's the whole privacy issue, which is a can of worms in itself. I mean, we're talking about some incredibly sensitive data here.
Mm.
How do we make sure that data is protected, that it's not being misused or accessed by people who shouldn't have access to it? These are all huge questions.
They really are. It feels like we're stepping into uncharted territory here, which is exciting, but also a little daunting?
Totally. And the presentation really drove that point home, that we need to have these conversations now. We need to be thinking about the ethical implications, the potential risks, and how to mitigate them. This isn't something we can just figure out as we go along.
We need some ground rules, some guidelines for how to use this technology responsibly.
100%. And that involves everyone, not just the tech developers and the researchers, but also the clinicians, the policymakers, and most importantly, the patients themselves.
We need to make sure that AI is being used to empower people, not to control them, right?
Absolutely. It should be a tool for good, for improving lives, not for creating new problems.
Well said. It feels like we're on the cusp of something huge here, and it's both exciting and a little terrifying all at the same time. But this has been such a fascinating deep dive. I feel like I've learned so much. Any final thoughts for our listeners before we wrap up?
If there's one thing I hope people take away from this conversation, is to stay curious, stay informed, and stay engaged. The future of AI and behavioral health care is being written right now, and it's up to all of us to make sure it's a future we can all feel good about.
I love that. So, to our listeners, thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of AI and behavioral healthcare. Keep those brains buzzing, and we'll catch you on the next one.